with that, what I'd like to do is I'd like to start talking about Orchestrator. What is it? Why is it here? What does it help us with? All those other good things. Orchestrator came about because us as organizations and as people, we're getting bombarded every single day with new types of technology, with new types of requirements within our business by competitors that are looking to leapfrog us and steal away our customers. And it's important for us as organizations to stay abreast and stay on top of all this technology and start to consume it and use it in a manner that makes us and our organizations better. So along those lines, we need to look at our ERP system, and Oracle has done this, and Oracle is changing JD Edwards to meet society and users' needs. They're making JD Edwards a simpler product to use. They're making it have greater visibility into the data and having more accurate data transmitted into JD Edwards on a more timely basis, and providing the tools and technology so that C-level people, management level people have the insight that they need in order to move the business forward and to grow the business. So when we think about Orchestrator, it started many, many years ago, and Oracle branded it as the Internet of Things Orchestrator. And it originally came about to be a machine-to-machine type of service where it could take data from one machine into another machine and into JD Edwards applications. But it's gotten beyond that now. Now it's an inbound, outbound type of process that it's built on the latest technology, REST services, and it can talk to other cloud services or talk to other third-party systems, all with a user being able to develop and construct the integration. It also allows you in your organization to safeguard your data and to make it more accurate, to make it more current, to keep it consistent, because we know as organizations that we are getting more and more and more information that we can't consume and look at and act upon as individual humans. We need some type of assistance, some type of machine help. And based upon that, and based upon where technology is going, you're going to see that artificial intelligence, you're going to see that automated processes conducted by machines are going to become more and more prevalent, not only in industry, but in your business. And Orchestrator is going to help us automate all of these processes along with these artificial intelligent devices. Now, if all that transaction is occurring and happening between these machine-generated things, we still need to be able to get notified. And you're going to see that the latest release of Orchestrator is building a robust notification engine inside of it, so that as events happen and as things occur, you're going to be able, and the right people are going to be able to get notified as to what's going on. So if you think about all of these things that we have going on in business and what we can use orchestrations for, you can see that it really is going to transform how you look at JD Edwards, how you look at your ERP system, and more importantly, how you as an organization want to approach the digital world and digital economy. Now, in the past, Oracle tried to make some money on Orchestrator by selling it as a separate product, but they realized that it was too important from a development and from an ERP perspective to sell as a standalone kind of thing. So now you as an organization get Orchestrator and Orchestrator Studio within your Enterprise One tools infrastructure. So you don't need a separate type of license. You don't need to buy anything new. You will get the Orchestrator Studio, you will get orchestration as part of your tools release. Now, what you need to understand though, is that doesn't mean you have carte blanche where you can use orchestrations throughout any module in JD Edwards. No, you still need to license and have an appropriate application that you can then use that orchestration against. And because the Orchestrator is so robust and because it can do so many different things, you have an Orchestrator console that gives you matrix as how are users and applications performing, and how are my machine and connected devices performing. So you're going to be able to get analytics and understand from both a human and a machine perspective how your orchestrations are helping and assisting you and your organization. So I want all of you, on this webinar to look at this screen, and I want all of you to understand that there's two different things. There's an application release, which is, your sales order entry or your accounts payable system, things of that nature. But there's also what's referred to as a tools release, the backbone, the underlying, coding of JD Edwards that controls all of these new UDOs and user interfaces and things of that nature. So I need you to look at the screen and see that release 9.2.0 of the tools release came out way back in 2015, 2016. And we had the capability to do queries and grid format changes and create pages, one view watch lists, etc. We had the ability to do all that on that tools release. Well, Oracle said, wait a minute, let's go a little step further. We did compose pages now and images, but now tools releases are fast and furious. And you can see that the 9.2 whatever tools releases allow you as users to not only increase your personal forms, but also look at Orchestrator, what's happening within Orchestrator. Now they're building in service requests so you can go out to other third-party apps and other places. They're building in rules, true, false kinds of things where if this event happens, then do this. If another event happens, do something else. They're building in cross-references. Now, the interesting thing with UDOs and what you need to realize as an organization is the philosophy now is every new object that you get in JD Edwards is delivered to your organization locked down. And what that means is Tom doesn't get to see it. Tom doesn't get to use it. Everything you've seen so far is a UDO, a user-defined object. And when your organization implements it, you need to get granted access to it. And even though Orchestrator is out there, every little component within the Orchestrator is considered its own UDO. So that means that if Tom wants to be able to personalize a form or create a service request, I need to have the appropriate security to do that. Not just view, but maybe create and change and everything else. Now, Oracle hasn't stopped there. You can see now that on tools release, the future 9.2 releases, they're building in even more UDOs. And the one I'd like you to pay attention to is the second from the bottom called notifications. That's part of Orchestrator Studio as well. And that, in effect, in my mind, I refer to it as the replacement of workflow. Because now you could create orchestrations and notifications where that when somebody performs an event and then someone else needs to act upon it, instead of sending an email, instead of picking up the phone, you literally could create an orchestration with a notification that says, hey, Amanda, I entered this customer. You now need to set a credit limit. And seamlessly, real time in the system, these events are getting pushed to other people so that they can then act upon them. And again, notifications, you as users subscribe. You say to the system, I want to be part of these types of notifications. They all get, you could create groups and align yourself to certain groups of notifications and, just become part of that. Now, when we talk about Orchestrator, and I include notifications in with orchestrations because they go hand in hand, they really do. Back in 2017, and I'm only showing you the last 2 years, back in 2017, Orchestrator Studio 6.0.2 was delivered. And it allowed you to do simple messaging and simple notifications, and it had a very simplistic scheduler. But only one tools release came out in that year for Orchestrator. If we look at 2018, there were 2 tools releases, both affecting Orchestrator and both providing enhanced capabilities within the Orchestrator Studio. If we look, and this is 2019, January to July, between January and July, there were 3 tools updates that affected Orchestrator. And you can see how fast and furious Oracle is developing additional capability within the Orchestrator and notifications for you to do things. If you look at the very last one under 2019, you now have the ability in user-defined objects to literally put a button on your form to launch an orchestration and notification right from within the application, and the user can do that as their own form design. So this picture right here is also important because if you're not on Tools Release 9.2.3.5, you're not going to be able to get all these capabilities. If you're only on Tools 9.2.2.1, you can't use Orchestrator Studio 7.3. You have to use Orchestrator Studio 6.0.2, which is a lot less robust. So this is just me trying to say to you, get code current. Get onto the latest tools releases. You don't have to get to the latest apps release, but at least get to the latest tools release. Because where are we going? JD Edwards is still the core ERP system, but it's being wrapped by all of these other processes and technologies that assist you to communicate and act outside of your business. Being able to help you take and automate mundane manual tasks, be able to get alerted and get reporting, be able to reach outside the walls of your organization and be able to interact more seamlessly, more consistently, more accurately with the rest of the world and your organization. So, UDOs, Orchestrator. In the past, somebody came up with an idea, talked to a developer, the developer started to develop something. They created a customized object in JD Edwards. They then checked it into, the development environment and said to the admin, hey, can you promote this up to PY for people to test? So they had to build a package and deploy it. And then people had to validate it and make sure it's right. And all of a sudden it became available to the users. And this whole process took days, if not weeks. So let's think about a simple development of a workflow message, right? Or the simple development of being able to integrate data, to create a new employee record. I would have to develop something and create a custom object that then would have to be retrofitted year upon year. Well, now with UDOs, with Orchestrator, your business analyst can turn around and type it in, say what he wants to do, turn around and publish it and share it to people that they then subscribe to it. The manager says, yeah, okay, let's make it available to everybody. They push it out, and these things now can be done within minutes, if not hours. So again, it's making you more efficient as an organization. This is what it looks like. The Orchestrator is comprised of the Orchestrator Studio, and then also has the Orchestrator console, and it's part of and tied to a JDE instance on an AIS server. You set one up and you point it to the JDE instance that you're going to utilize. And if you look on the left-hand side, the notifications and orchestrations, that's where you actually create them. On the right-hand side, you can also create additional service requests to other REST services. You might want to set up some rules within the system and within the orchestration. You might also want to set up some cross-references. But this is the landing page for your orchestration studio. Now, if we look forward, you'll have the Orchestrator client where you actually can run your orchestrations and see what's going on. You have your JDE Enterprise One instance that's tied to the Orchestrator. And then you have an Orchestrator monitor, which gives you matrix and health checks and lets you see how is the orchestrations performing, how are they doing. You have the ability to import files and create imports and various other connections. And more importantly, you have your own scheduler where you could turn around now, and when you develop your Orchestrator, you could turn around and say, I want to run this twice a week, twice a day, twice a week at these times, because that's when you want to process and manage and have that happen. So again, we'll see this in a bit, but what does our Orchestrator let you do? Orchestrator lets you automate, process, and integrate data. Now you can either create the code yourself, or I'm going to show you via the demo how you can use the process recorder to actually create the orchestration. You can set things up as steps. As I said, you can input various types of data, you can output various types of data, and you can use Orchestrator to monitor and handle any kind of errors and schedule whenever you need them to occur. With notifications, notifications monitor those processes, and when a certain condition happens, it then sends a notification to the subscriber. So you as an individual can get an email, you can get a text, you can have a little bell show up on your mail center, and you within the notification can create actions that people need to take or links that they need to take, or within the notification you can even create and launch another orchestration. So working hand in hand, this becomes one big seamless workflow process. We are shifting, JD Edwards is shifting from a human alert, analyze, act, right? Remember that came out, the UX1 experience, it's human-based. Let me be alerted, let me analyze, act. Now with orchestration, we're introducing the machine side of the fence so that the machine can detect, determine what to do, and actually do it. So it's about leveraging your citizen developer, leveraging your user-defined objects, working with all of them in orchestrations to make a seamless process occur, to have a service, a helpful activity, so that you don't have to do repetitive things. You don't have to ask yourself a question as to why you're doing it versus some other robotic or machine. You don't have to worry about the fact that you're doing something other than what your true job should be. That's what orchestration is supposed to be helping us with. So business analysts are typically the ones that provide the direction for orchestrations and what to do, because they understand JD Edwards, they understand the nomenclature, they understand aliases, they understand, you know, the applications and the forms and things like that. They also understand business and what business is trying to do. So typically a business analyst is the individual or individuals that are utilized to create orchestrations. That's not to say you can't have a savvy user do the same thing. Now, I don't want to kid anybody that orchestrations, all orchestrations can be created by a business analyst. That is not true, because some orchestrations do require some coding, some knowledge of Groovy or Java or some other coding language to accommodate the full orchestration. But as we go through the rest of this, we'll explain and identify the type of thing an end user might be able to do or an analyst might be able to do versus some other individual. So when you think about Orchestrator, Orchestrator can be very simple, can be very micro level, very simple, one thing and done. Or an orchestrator might have several different steps. You can then get more complicated and have orchestrations that call other orchestrations, and ultimately get to a fact where you can have various scheduled, real-time, interconnected orchestrations, notifications, and services all running together. And ultimately, that's where we're going. We're going toward the right to that real-time interconnected service. That's where the digital age is bringing us. That's where technology in 2019 and 2020 is bringing us. So, Orchestrator, if you look at the left-hand side, we have a bunch of digital things out there. We have some machines that we want to communicate back and forth with. We have various user interfaces and applications that we want to be able to process with. We want to make certain business process simpler. We want to maybe integrate some other applications or other things into our environment. And maybe we have some other intelligence system that we want to bring into our JD Edwards world. Well, your JD Edwards world is still going to be there. All we want orchestrations to do is to help us move that information into the right place so that that traditional user gets what they need to get when they need to get it. And you can see that the studio is a component of the orchestrator running on its separate AIS server. So, as a microservice, what might you be able to do, right? You might want to look at orchestrations to onboard an employee, or maybe to alert somebody for a credit limit. The example I give to people is, you know, a lot of organizations I go to, they have one common area that can create the customer record, but then they have a credit collection department that's responsible for putting in the credit limit. And then maybe they have a treasury department, and the treasury department is responsible for assigning the bank account information. Well, if you think about Orchestrator and notifications, why can't I build an orchestration that says once Tom enters the customer number, that orchestration gets invoked because it knows that Amanda, as part of the credit department, she needs to enter a credit limit. So when the orchestration is shot off, a notification is sent to Amanda. It says, hey, Amanda, this customer was created. I need a credit limit. That notification has a link in it that she can click to put in the credit limit. When she's done, another orchestration could occur that goes to John, who's in the treasury department, and says, hey, John, we just created this customer. You need to add bank account information. He can put in the account number with an orchestration that then updates the relevant data in JD Edwards for the bank account. That's the type of thing you could create in the flow with Orchestrator and notifications. So, could be very simple. What is the name and search type for this address number? And you could type it in, and Orchestrator will run out, grab it, and come back and say, it's John Doe, he's an employee. Or you might say, wait a minute, for this item, how many do I have? You know, or does it even exist? 1 is yes, 0 is no. You might want to turn around and you might want to integrate with some other REST service and ask questions like, what's the weather forecast like next week in Denver? Because maybe when you ship product, depending upon the weather, you may need to do something different or add some additional material to your packaging because the weather is going to be bad. You can do that. You might also do machine to machine, right? Let me understand this equipment. What's the status? You could run reports, and when a report is done, build in an orchestrator with a notification that sends an email to Tom. Tom's the CFO, I'm traveling on a plane, but the report's done, the email goes out, I'm on the plane, I look at the notification email, there's a link for the report, or the report's even included, I click on the report and I can see what I need to see. Or it might even be the approval. Maybe I'm the logistics guy and I need to approve a purchase order request, but I'm out of the office and a notification could get sent. I get it on my phone, I approve it, it's all said and done. Now, for those of you in JD Edwards have been around a while, that was the old mobile type of apps that Edwards was creating. Think about that. You don't need that anymore. You can use notifications and orchestrations to do that. You might turn around and want to validate a postal code. How many of you might have used that zip code table in the address book to make sure the city and state was right? Well, now maybe you just build an orchestration that goes out and says for zip code 12345, populate the city and state. And there you go. How many of you use multi-currency and have to update currency tables? Maybe now you use an orchestration to go out and grab the currency codes, and now instead of updating your currency once a week, you can update it every day. A lot of different uses. What do you want to do? How can you use it? When you talk about Orchestrator and UBOs, you got to step back and you have to say to yourself, what's the business need? What's the business case? What should I be doing? Do I need to do machine-to-machine, IoT type of stuff, right? Do I need to be a human, and if I'm walking on the floor and all of a sudden I see a piece of equipment goes down, do I need to just simply hit an orchestration where I put in the asset number and it goes and updates the system right away versus me walking to a terminal? Do I have some type of mobile application that I'd like to build an orchestration for? Maybe I have a spreadsheet and I want to upload that spreadsheet and I want to create a bunch of address records. I have a third-party application that I want to integrate back and forth. What about multiple integrations? Maybe I use Salesforce as a CRM tool and I have Magic and I do some REST calls back and forth with Magic, but yet within Magic, now I need to integrate with Orchestrator back into my AI service and create some JSON code back into my JDE instance. Office 365, email, calendars. I want to set up a meeting. I can have an orchestrator go out, look at a calendar. Is he available? Give me some dates. Let me schedule a meeting. Automated chat bots or artificial intelligence, being able to talk into your phone and having things done. What is it you need to do? And I said to you now, the latest and greatest tools release, you can embed an orchestration right in an app and have it processed right from the app. So, what do you need for orchestration? You have the orchestrations themselves, which are services. You define what your input's going to be. You could either use the alias of JD Edwards or change it. You define what the output's going to be. You can call it something other than what JD Edwards calls it. You can run applications like users do. You can create reports. You can turn around and you can grab data from a table or a view. You can embed true, false kinds of decisions. You could turn around and push messages and allow users to subscribe to the ones they want and categorize them the way they want to. And we talked about nested orchestrations, and we talked about external REST calls and things like that. Again, Groovy, Java, you need that skill set for more complex tasks and rules. And then you have your scheduler, where it's a more powerful thing than your JD Edwards, your existing scheduler you have today. And then the monitor to look and to see what's going on. You get layer of Edwards where you can automate as many things as you can, and you can increase the value of your system by driving continual automation. All of this is metadata, low or no code. You don't need anything new. Oracle's giving it to you. And the benefit of all this is you're getting rid of mundane manual process. You're eliminating a lot of errors, things of that nature. So if you look at the complete set of UDOs and you look how they all work together, you can literally take an example, and again, this is a common example where somebody's going out looking at meters, determining if the meter needs service or not, or if it should be moved, how many hours is there, blah, blah, blah. They would write all this information down. With orchestrations now and IoT devices and things like that, you don't need that. In the past, that person would have to go to multiple screens in Edwards to say, here's the reading, here's the status of the equipment, here's where the location is. Now you can build an orchestration or orchestrations where that meter reading is dynamic, goes where it has to go in the application it has to go to. If that meter needs servicing, it could kick off a service request. And if it moved, you can update your fixed asset location by saying, hey, that meter is no longer here, it's somewhere else. All of this can be done dynamically via no human intervention. The monitor, like I said, gives you statistics. The last 10 run orchestrations, their success rates. If they failed, you can turn around and see exception reports. You can get a bunch of other things. Again, this is new in 923 tools. So with all of that, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sign in, and we're going to show you a quick orchestration. And you can still see my screen, right, Amanda?
Yes, I can see it.
Thank you, Miss. So this is the landing page I talked about. You have notifications and orchestrations. You can create them. You have service requests, rules, whitelists, etc. And if you see up here, and I click on Tools, now I see my orchestration client that we'll get to. Here's my E1 instance. I'm going to go into my E1 instance, and I'm going to sign on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a very simple orchestration. I'm going to turn around, and I'm simply going to create a sales order. And I'm going to show you how your orchestration can create sales orders, or let's say getting rid of your EDI tables and the 47 tables and things like that, where you can now literally create an orchestration where you could bring data in and create records, i.e. purchase orders, sales orders, whatever. Now, the first thing I want to say to you is this. It's a UDO. And what do I mean by it's a UDO? If you don't have the capability and were granted access to do it, you're not going to be able to do it. So for you to use Orchestrator, you need to have the proper authority. So what I want to do is I want to record a process. And when I click that, I have my process recorder. I'm going to say I want to start. And once it starts, it's literally tracking everything I do. So I'm going to fast path now to my order entry table, P4210. When I get into P4210, what do I want to do? I want to add a sales order. So the screen comes back and says, what's the branch plan? I'm going to say the branch is N30. Who's it sold to? Sold to 4242. What's my quantity? Maybe I'm ordering 150. And what's my item number? 2002. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, when the order is entered and I get my previous order information, I'm now going to click this tab that says return values, because what do I want my orchestration to enter? I want it to enter and create an order number, an order type on a particular company. So I'm going to click those three fields. When I'm done, I'm going to say resume, and then I'm going to simply say stop. It's going to say, give me a name. I'm just going to call it AAA simply because I want it to be on the top of the list and not have to scroll for it. All right, I'm going to call it AAA. And again, think about this. Even though I'm creating it and I'm creating it as a UDO, it's still a quote unquote custom object. So you want to still follow that philosophy of using the custom object code. So I'm going to say, I'm going to give it a 55. I'm going to say save. And when it's all said and done, I'm going to close my process recorder. I'm going to close this application. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into my orchestration studio. Okay? So what I want to do now is I want to go back to the orchestrator, right? I want to go back into orchestrations, and I want to create a new orchestration. So I'm going to click new, right? It's going to ask me, give me a name. I'm going to say it's AAA, for argument's sake, AAA test. Give me a short description, AAA test. What product code is it going to be? Again, it's a custom thing, so I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to give it 55 again. Right? I'm going to make sure that it's a generic kind of form. And now what do I want to do? I want to create the orchestration. I want to add a step. So what kind of step? It's a very simple service request. I want to go to Edwards. I want to create something and come back. So I'm simply going to say service request. I'm going to say, okay. And then I'm going to come out to this line. I'm going to hit this little drop down. And what is it? It's AAA. That's what I created, right? AAA. So that's what I'm going to click. I'm going to say now I need those steps that I recorded. I need them to be added to this orchestration. So I come here and I say, add this step to the orchestration. And here they are. Long address, the grid, the quantity, the item. Now, I don't need the version, so I'm simply going to X that and close that out, okay? Now, what else do I want to do? I simply want to say, map these values automatically with what's in JD Edwards. So when I do that, it brings back in those JD Edwards fields. So now I want to save this. I click my little save button. It's a UDO, so those of you that have used UDOs, you should be very familiar with these buttons up here, right? So now what do I want to do? I want to see what the output's going to look like. So I'm going to click orchestration output. I want all those things on the recorder that I clicked. Remember, I clicked the fields for the order number, order company, etc. I want those to be returned back. They're okay, so I'm simply going to say okay, close out. I'm going to save this orchestration called AAA test one last time, and now I'm done. So now, if I get out of this, I can go back in to my actual Orchestrator client and run it. Now, when I come into the Orchestrator client, I have to make sure that I start with a clean slate. So when I come into this Orchestrator client, I want to clear my cache. So I'm simply going to say, clear the cache. It's going to go through. It's going to say, OK. Now, what do I want to run? I want to run AAA test. And notice what it does. It says, OK, here's the input fields. So what was the branch plan I used? I used M30. What was the sold to number? Sold to number was 4242. Maybe the quantity ordered is, I'm going to make it 999. And what was the item number? 2002. Now I'm going to test my Orchestrator. I'm going to say run. And notice what it does. It creates all the JSON code. And the output is what? Sales order 1776 for this company. Well, now if I come back into JD Edwards and I go back into P4210 and I look for order number 1776, I'll see here's 1776 for 4242 for 999 items. That's how easy it is. Now, that was using the process recorder. If you want and you're knowledgeable enough, you could turn around and you could create or copy this JSON code, and you literally can put the code here, and maybe now instead of 999 units, maybe I'm going to have 888 units instead. And you could run the JSON code. It'll go through, and here's my new order, 1777. So if I come back and I inquire on order number 1777, notice now, here's my 888, $122. So some orchestrations are very simple. Some orchestrations are going to need a little more, thought from your end user and, your business analyst to develop. You have to determine what makes the most sense for your organization. So where are we trying to go? We're trying to use all of these UDOs, including orchestrators and notification, to simplify our jobs, to give us greater visibility and accuracy of our information, to make that more timely so that we as an organization and we as people have better insight into what we need to do. So with that, Amanda, I'm going to toss it back to you, okay?
All right, sounds good. Okay. Thank you, Tom. And I would like to cover a few follow-up items and then move into our question and answer section of our webcast. Our webcast today is a part of GSI's free ongoing educational webcast series on JD Edwards. Our upcoming webcasts are listed on the screen, and to view our most up-to-date schedule, you can visit getgsi.com/JD-Edwards-webcasts. GSI provides extensive free educational resources for the JD Edwards community, including our weekly educational webcasts, our monthly newsletter called the GSI Insider, our online resource center where you can access our on-demand webcasts, white papers, etc., and our on-site and virtual workshops. If you would like to sign up for our weekly email reminders for upcoming webcasts, our monthly newsletter, or create an account to access our resource center, you can go to getgsi.com, go to resources and events on the main menu, select JD Edwards, and then select the appropriate link on the right. Okay, let's see. And while I see we've already had several questions submitted online, I would like to remind everyone that if you would like to submit a question, you can still do so on the questions panel in the GoToWebinar console window on the right of your screen. If you minimized your console earlier, please click the left arrow key to redisplay the questions panel.
And what I can do, Amanda, is I can read them off and just answer them if you want. Okay?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
All right. So our first question came from Santosh. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I'm sorry if I didn't. The question becomes, are you going to share the presentation at the slides at the end of the presentation? All of our webinars are recorded. So if in fact you want to see the presentation or revisit the presentation, you can simply go to our website, and under our webcast tab, you'll see that we have all of our prior webinars that are recorded, including this one. Give us a day or two to put it up there on the site, but you'll be able to revisit the presentation or have some co-workers look at the presentation by going to the website. The next question is from Marjorie. And her question is, what tools release did you say has the option for the button and an application? It's the 9234 tools release. So it's one of the latest tools releases, allows you now to embed an Orchestrator button within an application form, okay? The next question we have is from Raj. He asks, how can we set up the JDE AIS link in Server Manager? That is a question that Tom, being more of a functional guy, doesn't have the answer to, but what I can tell you, Raj, is this. When we were at InFocus, our CTO did a presentation. It was attended by 220 or so people on the way to actually set up the AIS server and best practice way to set it up for Orchestrator. And the directions by Oracle are very confusing and very convoluted. And he came up with a more simplistic approach and a presentation that talks to what people should be doing. So what I would do is you can either shoot me an email or someone else, and we can look to get that presentation to you. The other thing I would like to mention is this. GSI, we are conducting Orchestrator hands-on workshops where organizations can come to the workshop, literally hands-on, create orchestrations and things of that nature. GSI is also offering clients the ability to have us come out to their site to educate them on Orchestrator and to work with them to create several orchestrations that can benefit their organization and meet their requirements. So I would do several things. I would get that presentation from John, and or even look to attend a workshop or engage us to come out there and help not only set it up, but walk through the creation of some of these orchestrations. The next question comes from Pete. How do you start an orchestration? We have used SOAP requests. See, I don't understand why I can't see the full message. Let's see. How can we do this? We use SOAP requests. Has this changed in a newer version? Orchestrations now, again, not being the technical guy, they use REST services. They also use, you know, some other groovy Java kind of calls and things of that nature, or they integrate to other services like Magic Software. Again, shoot me an email, Pete. I will have the people, the CIO, get a definitive answer for you. Unfortunately, I don't have that answer, okay? The next question is from Olanaran. They'd like to know, can you perform multiple document creations like the sales order? Yes. The example I walked through, I created one sales order, one line. You literally can create multiple orders with multiple lines. It's not limited to what you can do. So, if you think about a spreadsheet, you have a spreadsheet that you upload. That spreadsheet can have, hundreds of rows. Several rows could be for one particular order, another, X rows for something else. So the answer is yes, you can create multiple records and multiple rows on a record with orchestrations. Another good example, we talked about onboarding employees, right? Some of our clients are in the construction type of business where they have a lot of 1099 people coming and going, and they constantly need to add employees and remove employees. So they can create orchestrations where they literally can say, okay, these employees now are on a hiatus and they're no longer engaged with the company. So they can run an orchestration to change their status to inactive. And then when they come back again, they change their status back to active. Or if they add new employees, they can add all of the pertinent information, 1099 information, things of that nature. So, the example I gave you was a very skinny, very lean example. There is a ton of stuff you can do with orchestrations, and that's the reason why I say, look to come to a workshop where we'll give you case studies and we'll actually develop some orchestrations, or look to turn around and have us come to your organization where we can help you best practice, build several orchestrations, with you, and give you that education you need to continue onward on your own. So any of those ways would work. All right. I think we have another question. This one is from Matt. Can I use an orchestrator to get information out of JDE for use in another application, and then, turn around, and I'll expand your question. The answer to that is yes, Matt. You can pull information out of Edwards to then process in a third-party outside application. And once that information has been tweaked and you need to update JD Edwards, you can build an orchestration to pull it back in again and update the JDE side. So it could be a round trip kind of thing. It doesn't just have to be one way. It could be bidirectional both ways. So the answer is yes. Again, if you have a question, feel free. Right now, I think, Amanda, that's the extent of what we've had far. Again, the only other thing I want to tell you is this. Oracle is investing heavily in the development of this product and the enhancement of this product. This product is going to be the backbone for not only mobile applications in Oracle, but it's going to be the backbone, for their artificial intelligence applications and chatbots and things of that nature. I would strongly suggest you as an organization, if you're not on applications 9.2, get to applications 9.2, because then you'll get support through 2030, and it'll give you an easier roadmap to be able to consume and take all these new UDOs that Oracle is pushing out. So again, remember, everything I talked about today, I presented to you on a lab that had the latest and greatest tools released. If you're not on a 9.2 tools release, your orchestration is going to act, look, and do a lot different than what I showed you. So, that's my closing words of wisdom, if you will. So with that, thank you. Amanda, if you want to close it all up, we can do that.
Yep, you got it. And as a follow-up from today's webcast, we ask that you complete a short 1-minute survey when you exit. You'll be receiving an email with a link to our resource center on our website where you can access the recording from today's webcast, and we will also be uploading a copy of the presentation, the slides themselves, if you just want to view that as well. And after today's webcast, we will do the drawing for the $25 Amazon gift card, and anyone who attended the entire webcast will be eligible, and we'll notify the winner. And if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to either Tom or myself, and we will get back to you. Thanks for attending our presentation, and we hope you have a great day.